Mr. Crowder, I guess without going into too much detail, what do you collect in revenues per year, and how much goes to operation, and how much goes to reserves and borrowing costs and so on? What are you left with? And I'm getting at the question of why don't airports just finance terminals construction themselves?
Thank you, Representative Larsen. Basically, I think what we're getting at is how much unrestricted cash does my airport generate, and how much unrestricted cash do I have available for capital improvements. So just to talk a little bit very quickly about what unrestricted means, because it means different things to different people the way it's defined. But to us, it does not mean available, because we define available cash as that which is on hand after reserves, and we maintain a number of reserves such as operations and maintenance reserve, other post-employee benefits reserve, environmental liability reserve, etc. So after all of that, what we have available in funding a $4 million to $6 million a year non-grant funded capital program is 6 to 8 months of cash on hand.
And can you build a terminal in a timely manner with that?
I cannot build a terminal in a timely manner. We're really good at what we do, sir, but we're not that good.
Okay. Well, you are pretty good. You're Spokane. You're pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
I want you to go home and say that I said it. They'll never believe it. On your chart, I think it is important to point out, well, I'd like you to explain it. You have the chart, you got the blues and the reds, and this is the chart that you handed out beforehand. Is the interest cost strictly based on the payoff that you've chosen, or is it a combination of factors?
The interest cost really is running on its own there. If you look at the upper left corner of the graphic, you see the actual cost of Trex at $191 million, and then another $151 million, give or take, in interest over the course of the bonds. And you can see we've effectively figured that we would have general airport revenue bonds that would probably be 25 to 30 years plus payoffs. And so we go down from the top of the graphic to a scenario of what would that interest rate decrease to, or interest total decrease to, if we were able to charge a higher PFC, and we picked 650 in this particular example. You can see the interest beginning to disappear, and then at 850 you can see that the interest goes from 151 million in the total project cost down to 66 million.
So in your world, who pays that red bar?
The passengers.
The passengers pay that interest?
Yes, sir.
General taxpayers at all pay that?
No, sir. It's the users of the airport that pay for it. We do not rely on any taxpayer assistance to run our airport system.
And that's just how that works. Okay. Why is AIP a less attractive method to pay for terminal building improvements, or is it an option at all?
A couple reasons. First is that AIP has been flat for a very long time, and if you look at its purchasing power, we've talked about the decrease in the purchasing power of the PFC, but AIP has also had a corresponding decrease in its purchasing power. So the $3.35 billion per year after the FAA takes out what it needs to manage the program is 3.2, but effectively it's about worth 1.8. And so most of AIP is actually 71% of AIP is directed towards airfield projects only. And on top of that, we can't bond off of AIP.
You can't bond off AIP. All right. I want to switch gears a little bit with Mr. Fanning. What is the single most, what's the one thing the FAA can do from a regulatory perspective to address or to advance the UAM?
Well, first of all, it's getting the right regulation in time. Other countries are focused on this, and if we don't have the regulatory schemes in place in time for the utilization or the realization of this technology, other countries will get there first. So it's not just a matter of slowing down the United States, it's ceding that market to other countries. But what's also important, and Congress has taken leadership on this, is making sure it's the right regulation, that these are performance-based regulations, because these companies are approaching this in different ways, and this technology is very iterative. And so if we use old prescriptive regulation, it will slow down the advancement and utilization of this technology.
Okay. And the other part of your answer is get the remote ID rule done?
Get the remote ID rule done, yeah.
That's what I thought you were going to say next.
There's a number of things in the framework, that operations over people, operations beyond the line of sight, that we've got to figure out, but remote ID is definitely a part of that.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Representative